Hello and welcome to Finextra TV. I'm Hannah Wallace and you're tuning in to our Predict 2024 series. With me now is Paul Thomalla, who's going to be sharing his predictions on ISO 20022. So Paul, it's lovely to have you back in the studio with us and excited to hear about your predictions around ISO 20022 because we are, I think, at the tipping point, aren't we? So bring us up to date and tell us what are your predictions in this space.
Well, first of all, it's great to be here. Look, we've had ISO 20022 now for 20 years next year, so that'll be its 20th anniversary. And we've been talking about it since 2000, okay? Mm-hmm. However, there's a lot of things coming just literally right round the corner. We already have Fed now, we're going to have SWIFT mandates, we're going to have SEPA Inst. There is just going to be a lot, just in the payments arena, not necessarily just the whole of FS, but in the payments arena, there's a lot that's going to start to happen. And the issue that we have there is actually when we have these dates, they always get tighter towards the end. Well, 2024 and 2025 is going to be the years we're going to have to do it. We already have 76 ISO 20022 clearings out there. However, we're now getting mandates, we're now getting industry change. As you say, it is the tipping point when next year, 2024, we're going to get busy with ISO 20022, frankly, whether we like it or not.
All right, that's an exciting start. And as we know, in the lead up to the tipping point, as it were, we think about those challenges, but now they're really front of mind, aren't they? So highlight those challenges for us and who are they challenging for?
Well, I think the issue behind the issue is, if you will, we've been asking for this for such a long time now. And when we get closer, you start to realize just the enormity of the challenge. So you have, let's say, the corporate that needs to change, you have the bank that needs to change, you have the central bank that needs to change, and you have the correspondent bank as well that needs to change. And all this flow means that effectively nearly everything changes, whether it's a big strategic move for the bank or for the corporate, or it's just putting the wrapper on the outside, and we can perhaps talk about that later on. But the truth of the matter is, it's a very strategic change that goes back into the legacy issues that you and I have talked about for quite a while. They need to change, but need to change for everybody. The data models, all of the business processes. And the real problem behind that is, in reality, whether it's the corporate or it's the bank or it's the central bank, there's only a few people that have those skill sets that understand the consequences of these changes. And they're worked. And actually, every bank that I know wants them to be customer facing. Mm-hmm. In fact, what's happening, they're inwardly facing, running all of these projects. So it really comes down, I think, to key resources inside of the bank being absolutely maxed out, and now we've got this concertina effect of all these changes happening all at the same time. That's not a great thing for the bank, it's not a great thing for the individuals, and we really do want them facing outwards, making money, not inwards, maintaining systems.
All right, that's interesting. So there's a lot for the banks to be preparing for, but also you're alluding to a restructuring of the companies as well and the skill sets within them. So I'm interested to hear a bit more about that and what the answer is to these challenges. How can they be met?
Well, I think from the restructuring of it, it really is very deep. Payments, I'm a payments guy, but, payments is not the be all and end all of banking, and it's just part of it. But all the other systems that are inside of the bank need to talk to the payment system. If you will, it's the bit in, the very heart of it. So those things need to change too. Otherwise, you're just putting a layer, and you could argue you're just putting lipstick on a pig. And that's not what anybody wants to do. It might be what they have to do, but it's not what they really want to do. So it is effectively anything that touches payments needs to get changed. And I think the way to fix that in many ways is to automate. And the issue that we have here is effectively the testing and the validation of an ISO project. 30 to 50% of that is just in the testing piece. Well, if we could automate that, then you're going to save yourself an awful lot of time and get those people customer facing. UNIFITS is saying, hey, look, we can get 80% of that testing and validation time down. So that allows you to read a lot quicker, do a lot more, but moreover, use those key skills with your customers rather than the internal battles that we all know happens with ISO 20022.
All right, so looking at 2024 then, and getting your forecast, what are sort of the main big steps to sort of summarize what we've covered?
I think the big steps guys, it's just going to happen. And whether you think it's 2025 or it's going to slip to 2026, it's not. It will be a 2024 issue. And actually, you need to bite it. You know, you really need to get yourself ready. And if it was up to me, I would say automate it, because otherwise you're just going to be doing a lot of busy work, and that's not good for you. It's not good for your customers, and it's probably not good for your own team.
All right, so automation is key, but could you talk us through what that automation looks like?
Well, right now, you just have a lot of people doing manual testing. Actually, there's no reason really to do that. If you set up a process and say, what's this message do? What's its happy path? What's its sad path? You can put that into a process and it's just done. And you can do it for the whole lot of them, quite frankly. And that stops you having to do manually checking everyone and then, it failed, had to go right back to the beginning and do it all again. If you put it into the process that UNIFITS has, it allows you to go through all the steps, and when you get the issues, it's exactly this. You run through it again, it's done. And literally, you know, it's 80% of the time is saved. And a lot of frustration. And sometimes it's not always easy to make sure that you can send your message to a correspondent bank. And so you need the other person to be at the same level as you are at the same time. Well, actually, what we can do is we can work with the central infrastructure and automate them so the bank can test their message between themselves and the bank and effectively the correspondent. So you know that it works all the way through. And if you want to automate the client onboarding as well, of course, it's the same process. You test all the messages, test how they work, make sure you get all the responses. Not only that, but when in 6 months' time or in 12 months' time, you know, Swift or, you know, whoever wants to change the specs, it'll be kept evergreen because we'll update it for you. So it's never going back to the manual process. Once you're in the automated process, you're done for life.
All right, thanks for that. And interesting to hear what UNIFITS is doing in this space as well. And to summarize then, Paul, what is the main message and forecast for next year?
I think the real key thing is you can't put it off anymore. It might be the lipstick on the pig that we talked about. It might be doing the whole thing, but you're going to have to do it. And you know, that's because regulation is changing, the industry is forcing it, and the dates are 2024 and 2025. In reality, they're probably not going to slip now into 2026. So if it's 25, you got to do it in 24. If it's 24, guess what? You're going to have to do it in 24. Either way, the time is now, and as you've said, in fact, it's the tipping point. You've got to get on it.
Fantastic, Paul. Thank you very much, and some good advice to end on as well. And looking forward to speaking to you further down the line. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.